Good morning, students. Myself Deepak Garg. Yesterday, I have told you about the various features of the industrialization, and I've also told you what is the industrial policy, what are the objectives of the industrial policy. Today, I will tell you about the various industrial policy resolution which was framed by the Government of India. In 1948, the first industrial policy was framed, in which the government started the 5 year plans. The first 5 year plan was based on the agriculture, whereas the second 5 year plan was to increase the economic development by increasing the capital good industries. In 1954, the government adopted that the concentration of economic power should not remain in few hands, but the government started its own industries through the public sector units. In industrial policy 1956, they have categorized the industries into three parts depending upon the degree of state ownership participation in their development. In the first category, it is the Schedule A industries, which consist of the 17 areas like arms and communications, arms and ammunition, aircraft building, transport, shipbuilding, iron and steel, and so on. Now, it is only by the government to run these sectors, so they are the exclusive domain of the public sector. The second category is the Schedule B industries, which consist of the areas like fertilizers, road and sea transport, aluminium, machine tools, antibiotics, etc. These are 12 such areas in which the industries are initiated by the state, but private sector can also supplement the efforts of the state. The third category is the Schedule C industries, wherein all the remaining industries are left to the initiative of the private sector, and the state can provide the necessary assistance to the private sector for development of these industries. Now, what are the features of the industrial policy 1956? Now, the different features are listed. The first one is a no watertight compartment. That means that the areas in which private sector can work, the government sector can also take part, and state may get components from the private, and vice versa. Thus, interdependence is there between public and private sectors. The second is the role of the small scale sector. The government has exclusively given 128 items for production by the small scale industries. Thus the government want to support and develop the strength of the small scale industries. The third is the balanced regional development. Now, the backward areas were not considered very profitable by the by the private sector to establish the industries. Therefore, the government want that the power and transport areas should be developed in these areas, so that there is a balanced regional development in the country. The next is the management of the public enterprises. Now, the private sector run industries were more professional, therefore, and they run on the business lines. Therefore, the government want that the public enterprises should also be given more freedom of action, more efficiency, flexibility to managers, and avoiding bureaucratic and red tapeism. The next one is the development of personnel. Now, training is an important part of running the industry. Therefore, the managerial and the technological personnel were given training in different levels for rapid industrialization. Next, in the industrial piece, now by applying the various laws given by the government, they can provide good working conditions to the workers, and they can also associate the labor with management, so that joint consultation can be possible and industrial peace can be prevailed. Now, as we know that the businessmen always try to appraise the policies which are framed by the government. So this 1956 industrial policy was also appraised by the businessmen, and they have given some few points which were against the policy. Now, they said that the public enterprises were given more role in economic development. The second was that in this way, the public enterprises were more economic more financially burdened by this financial power. The next was that as more industries were developed by the government, the managerial and the technical persons were not available in the market to run these businesses. The government, against these criticism, said that the private sector was also given due importance. Both public and private sectors were asked to cooperate, and measures for complete successful implementation of programs of industrial development is necessary unless and until both private and public sectors come together and work for work for rapid economic development of India. In this regard, the 1956 industrial policy was reframed in 1991. Now, the main objectives of 1991 industrial policy was to liberate the industry from regulatory devices like licensing system, increase competitiveness of industries, ensure running of public enterprises on business level, ensure support to small sector industry, provide more incentives to industries in backward areas, and ensure rapid industrial growth. Now, what are the different provisions of new industrial policy of 1991? The first important, the major head was the abolition of the industrial licensing. Now, in 1956 policy, the companies were under licensing system so that the small scale industry should be protected. Now, in this 1991, the licensing system was abolished. Now, this helps in security and the strategic concern, hazardous chemicals in the areas of security and strategic concerns, hazardous chemicals, industry adversely affecting environment, industrialization which require growth due to regulated growth due to social reasons. The second is the de-reservation of the industries in public sector. The first one is the reduced reservation for public sector. Now, at present, only 4 areas are there which are exclusive for public sector, like defense, atomic, railways, and minerals, which are used in the atomic energy. The second is the efforts to revive loss-making enterprises. Now, a board was constituted, which is called as a Board of Industrial and Financial Reconstruction Board, which is also called as BIFR, so that they can view that which industries can be revived with the help of the government. The next one is the disinvestment in the selected public sector industry units. Now, to increase the private sector participation, the government want to sell its sharing in the government by with the help of disinvestment. So, a disinvestment commission was set up to see all the modalities of the disinvestment. The next is the greater autonomy to the public enterprises. To run the companies on business lines, they were given more power and more accountability to run the industries. The next important thing is the liberalized policy towards foreign capital and technology. So to attract the foreign investment and the foreign technology, they have liberalized the policy in this area. The first one is a relaxation in the upper limit of the foreign investment. Now, earlier it was only 40% of the total equity capital which can be invested by the foreign players. But in this 1991 new industrial policy, it was increased up to 100%, where 100% foreign direct investment is permitted in industries like mining, coal, electricity, and so on. Then there is automatic permission for foreign technology agreements. Now, government, if the private sectors can fulfill the conditions made by the government, they can enter into technology agreements with the foreign companies, and the foreign technology can be implemented in high priority industries. Then the next one is a greater support for small scale industries. Since we are talking about more about the capital good industry, the small scale industries also require support from the government. Now, what government done was to set up agency to ensure that credit needs are fulfilled, equity participation by large scale industries in small scale sectors, to assess the capital market and to encourage upgradation and modernization, production of parts and components required by public sector industries in small scale sector. Then there were other provisions which are done by the government in this new policy. Establishment of Foreign Investment Promotion Board, which is also called as FIPB, to negotiate with number of international companies for direct investment. Next was to set up a national renewal fund to provide a small security to provide social security to the workers and to provide relief and rehabilitate those workers who are unemployment due to technological changes or closure of the companies. Now, when it was appraised, the new industrial policy was appraised in comparison to the 1956 policy. The 1991 policies, the main highlights were the removal of the entry barriers, reducing exclusive areas of public sector, rationalization of approach towards monopolistic approach, liberalization of the foreign investment, and encouraging growth in small sectors. Now, the public sector. So, in the next lecture, we will talk about the public sector under the new industrial policy 1991. So, till then, thank you.